I'm looking at my phone screen right now, and I genuinely feel like my blood has been replaced by battery acid.
Oh, totally.
Like the message honestly ruined the entire day. One single text bubble, and whatever emotional stability we had completely evaporated instantly.
And with that, babes, good morning, good evening, good night, good life. Welcome back to the table.
Yes, welcome back, babes. By the time you hear this, it will almost be the weekend, so cheers to all our gorgeous queens and kings.
Cheers to you all. And honestly, grab your glasses, get comfortable, because we have an absurd amount of ground to cover today.
Oh, my nervous system is practically humming. We are unpacking the season 1 finale of Margo's Got Money Troubles, and it is a lot.
We are so happy to be sitting here with you, Snark Squad, because frankly, if we didn't have these microphones turned on right now, we would just be pacing around the kitchen.
Literally just aggressively whispering to each other in the dark.
Exactly. But before we get into the absolute unmitigated chaos of the television we consumed this week, we have a critical update.
A very critical update.
Listen closely, because this alters the trajectory of our entire evening. We made leche margaritas tonight.
And when we say we made them, I mean we have accidentally ascended to a new plane of existence.
We are mixologists now.
We really are. These drinks are life-changing. I am staring at the condensation on this glass, and I am deeply, profoundly emotionally attached to it.
It's not just a beverage.
No, it's an emotional support system. I need it.
I am fully operating under the delusion that I am a celebrity bartender right now. Like, forget everything you know about standard mixology.
You were moving so fast in the kitchen.
I don't even know what happened in there 10 minutes ago. I threw some premium tequila, fresh lime, a dash of agave, and a heavy pour of lychee juice into a shaker, and suddenly, we are pouring liquid gold.
Liquid gold?
If someone from Bravo walked in right now, they would literally hand me the keys to a West Hollywood restaurant. I am ready to design menus.
Honestly, the lychee is the secret weapon.
Yeah.
Why does the flavor of lychee make literally anything taste like it costs $45?
Yeah. It just does. It's the sheer opulence of the fruit.
Right. You take one sip, and suddenly your brain tricks you into thinking you're, like, wearing linen trousers on a private terrace in Ibiza.
Just politely ignoring a call from a wealthy European heir.
Exactly. It's an instant aesthetic upgrade. I took a sip, looked at the stack of unopened mail on the counter, and instead of feeling stressed, I just thought, oh yes, my rustic, chaotic, chic administration corner.
It completely reframes reality.
Yeah.
Leiji doesn't ask for attention. It commands respect.
It demands respect.
I am genuinely debating whether we should just abandon our entire life plan and release a Snark-side cocktail book.
Wait, we actually should.
We wouldn't even need traditional recipes. It would just be a mood board of drinks paired with specific reality TV grievances.
I would buy 5 copies right now. Every recipe instruction would just end with, shake aggressively until your forearms burn, while visualizing the downfall of someone who deeply inconvenienced you.
Which, quite frankly, is the perfect transition.
Oh my God, yes it is.
Because Snark Squad, we need you to pour one out. Or perhaps mix a fresh one for all our exes right now.
Pour it right down the drain.
Because apparently the moment the weather gets warm, exes collectively lose their grip on reality.
They go entirely feral. It is a documented phenomenon.
Gather around the table, babes, because we have to unpack the sheer, unadulterated audacity that occurred a few hours ago.
I am still sweating from it.
Picture the scene. Okay. I am on the drive home from work. Broad daylight.
Daylight.
The sun is shining. I am listening to a podcast. The air conditioning is set to a reasonable 72 degrees. I am minding my own gorgeous, healed business.
Flowing, thriving.
And my phone lights up, a text message from an ex
Wow.
asking to, quote, catch up over dinner.
I am still physically vibrating with rage. When you showed me that screen, I was immediately fiercely furious on your behalf.
I knew you would be.
I wanted to throw your phone into the ocean. The sheer, unmitigated gall to send a text on a beautiful, peaceful afternoon asking for dinner.
Like, I have nothing better to do.
As if you were just sitting in a waiting room, twiddling your thumbs, hoping for the ghost of relationship past to manifest a reservation at a mid-tier Italian restaurant.
I mean, let's be clear. I am fine. I am playing it completely cool.
Oh, of course.
I am as unbothered as the ice clinking in this luxurious lychee margarita. But internally, fully spiraling.
Fully.
The text came through, and I stared at the screen like it was written in ancient hieroglyphics. I had to pull the car over just to stare at it safely.
You have to pull over for that kind of emotional hazard.
Why do exes always return when the weather changes? Is there some sort of seasonal atmospheric pressure that disrupts the frontal lobe of anyone who has ever wronged you?
Yes. There is a biological shift. Summer hits, everyone starts posting aesthetic beach pictures, the patio bars are full, and suddenly they realize they are sitting on their couch alone.
Exactly. Summer loneliness is making people actively dangerous to society.
They realize nobody is looking at them with the endless well of patience and grace that you used to provide, so they cast a line out.
A very weak line.
But I have a deeper theory, and you know I stand by this.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that certain men have a supernatural biological radar for peace.
Oh, the peace radar. It is terrifyingly real.
They can sense when you are finally, truly okay. You finally stop checking their social media.
Your cortisol levels drop.
Your skin clears up. You are enjoying a perfectly mixed cocktail in your own kitchen, and boom, the alarm goes off in their dark little lair.
They sense a disturbance in the force.
They do. They realize you are no longer agonizing over them, and they cannot handle the lack of energetic supply. So they type, "Hey stranger," just to detonate a small bomb in your day.
It's emotional terrorism, masked as casual nostalgia. They absolutely cannot stand the idea that we are thriving in their absence.
No, they hate it.
And the worst part is the phrasing. It's never honest. It's always disguised as wanting closure or just checking in.
Oh, I hate the word closure.
Babes, let me look you dead in the eye through this microphone closure is a fabricated concept.
Say it louder.
It is a myth invented by people who want to keep one foot in the door. It was designed to ruin lives and drag out breakups for an extra 6 to 8 business months.
I am so glad we are tearing down the closure myth. Closure is just an excuse to run diagnostics on your boundaries.
Literally just checking if the locks still work.
Exactly. They want to see if they can still gain access to your life. So, for the Snark squad listening with bated breath, what did we decide the answer to this incredibly audacious dinner invitation was?
Oh, the answer became absolutely not before the text even fully rendered on the screen.
Period.
I didn't even dignify it with the typing bubbles. I just left it on red. A cold, hard, definitive read receipt.
Let them sit in the silence. It's what they deserve.
But I won't lie to you, it completely derailed my train of thought for the rest of the day. One little text, and my nervous system had to be manually rebooted.
Which is exactly why we are drinking these margaritas on a weeknight.
Which honestly leads us into something so profound that we realized while we were standing over the kitchen counter earlier.
We were aggressively shaking the cocktail shaker.
Mid-shake, venting about the audacity of aging and exes, and we both suddenly stopped.
We looked at each other, and this horrifying realization just washed over us.
Tell them.
We suddenly realized we are basically finishing chapter 1 of our adult lives.
It is terrifying to say out loud. Snark Squad, transparency time, we are both hitting 35 this year.
And babes, we are spiraling.
Fully, deeply, existentially spiraling. 35. How did the math even add up to that?
I don't know. I swear on my life, I feel like I just walked across the stage at my high school graduation about 15 minutes ago.
It was definitely last week.
I still feel like I need an adult to co-sign my life choices, but I am the adult. The emotional whiplash of getting older is so intense because adulthood happened in the blink of an eye.
You think there's going to be a manual or an orientation week, but no, you just wake up one Tuesday, your lower back aches because you slept at a slightly incorrect angle.
God, the back pain.
And you suddenly have very strong, passionate opinions about the thread count of your bed sheets.
It's the mundane things that shock you. We made a whole mental list of things we were absolutely positive we would have mastered by this age.
I genuinely thought I would have a perfectly organized refrigerator by now, like with everything in those little clear acrylic bins.
Oh, the TikTok restock bins.
I thought I would know how to effortlessly fold a fitted sheet without turning it into a chaotic ball of fabric.
Nobody knows how to do that. It's a myth.
I thought my emotional regulation would be operating like a Swiss watch. But the universal, humbling realization of hitting your mid-30s is discovering that literally nobody actually knows what they're doing.
Nobody. Not a single person.
Everyone is just walking around in sensible footwear, sending emails with the words circle back and pretending they aren't internally screaming about the passage of time.
We are all just incredibly skilled at masking the confusion.
We really are.
It is so comforting to realize this charade, though. And honestly, while I am spiraling about the number 35, There's something profoundly beautiful about the messy, uncoordinated process of growing into ourselves.
There really is.
Like, fine, my linen closet is a disaster, but I actually know how to set a boundary now.
Huge flex.
That is the theme of this whole decade. I feel like this specific age is about becoming remarkably softer and entirely stronger at the exact same time.
Yes, that duality.
I cry so much easier now. Like, a commercial for dog food will absolutely wreck me.
Loving?
But I also have zero tolerance for toxic behavior. Healing is so messy, babes. It is not linear.
No, it really isn't. You think healing is this upward staircase, but it's actually a curly fry.
Wait, I love that. A curly fry.
It is. You keep looping back over the same spot, just from a slightly higher vantage point.
And confidence. Confidence takes a ridiculous amount of time. I look back at photos of myself in my 20s, and I was so deeply insecure.
We all were.
Constantly twisting myself into knots to be digestible for other people. Now, I am sitting here drinking a lychee margarita, unapologetic about what I like and who I am, and I feel like royalty.
As you should.
Happiness just looks so entirely different now than I thought it would when I was 22.
It really does. If I had to distill the biggest lesson from Chapter 1 of adulthood, it is undeniably this piece is exponentially more valuable than attention.
Oh, that is so true.
When you are in your 20s, you crave the narrative. You want the drama, you want the chaotic group chats, you want the attention of being in the center of the hurricane because it makes you feel alive.
You want to be the main character of a messy indie movie.
Exactly. Now, please, for the love of everything, do not text me. Leave me in my incredibly boring, peaceful little bubble. Attention is cheap, but peace is expensive.
That is profound. Write that down, Snark Squad.
And here's another brutal truth of Chapter 1. Not every friendship survives adulthood.
Oh, that's a hard one.
It is, but that is not necessarily a tragedy. It is just biology. You evolve, your priorities violently shift, and sometimes people just naturally fade out because you no longer share the same emotional ecosystem.
Right. It hurts, but holding on to dead weight hurts more.
Also, money stress. Money stress ages you faster than sun damage.
That is a scientific fact.
And don't even get me started on dating. Dating gets so incredibly strange with age. The dating pool in your 30s is basically just two people sitting across from each other, comparing their therapy notes.
Just casually analyzing attachment styles over appetizers.
Subtly trying to figure out each other's credit scores.
It is a trauma-dumping interview process. But you know what? Even with the backaches and the fading friendships, I wouldn't trade a single lesson from Chapter 1.
Me neither.
It built the foundation. And babes, this entire realization about finishing the first chaotic chapter of adulthood ties in so flawlessly with the absolute masterpiece of television we need to break down today.
The transition is seamless.
Because when you look at Margo Millet, Margo is standing at the exact blood, sweat, and tears finish line of the first incredibly chaotic chapter of her adult life.
Snark Squad, refill your lychee margaritas, pull your chair closer to the table, and let's get into it.
Yes, let's go.
The Season 1 finale of Margo's Got Money Troubles, Episode 8. Lock and load.
And let me tell you, the writers loaded the emotional ammunition, aimed it directly at my chest, and fired.
This was the ultimate closing of a messy, dramatic chapter. We have to start with the pre-trial chaos, because the sheer audacity of Mark in this episode reached stratospheric levels.
I despise that man.
I didn't even know a human being could possess this much unearned confidence. Let's set the scene for the babes who haven't watched yet, or who were too blinded by rage to remember the details.
So we open with what should be a victory lap. Margo has just passed her court-mandated psychological evaluation.
A huge win.
Massive. The state psychiatrist literally signed the paperwork saying she is perfectly fit, mentally and emotionally, to retain custody of her baby, Bodhi. This should have been the end.
It really should have.
This should have been the moment the dark clouds parted, the sun shone down, and this entire suffocating legal nightmare evaporated.
In a logical one, yes. But we are not dealing with logic. We're dealing with Mark.
Exactly. Mark is a petty, entitled, suffocatingly toxic little man who refuses to take the loss, so he continues to drag her through the mud. Which brings us to the mediation scene.
We have to analyze the specific dynamics of this mediation room. You have Margo, completely exhausted.
Running on empty.
And you have Lace, Margo's lawyer, who, by the way, is being played with such ice-cold surgical brilliance.
I love Lace. She is terrifying in the best way.
Lace tells Margo before they walk in that they just need to play the game. Offer a tiny olive branch, let Mark feel like he's winning something, and they can wrap this up without a trial.
Just placate his ego.
Right. So they sit down at this giant wooden table, and the mediator looks at Mark and says, essentially, look, your entire custody petition was built on the accusation that Margo is psychologically unfit.
And the state says she is fit.
Exactly. The mediator says, do you want to withdraw the petition and save everyone tens of thousands of dollars?
And what does this absolute clown do? I was literally screaming at the television. I had to pause it and walk around my living room.
He refuses.
He sits there in his little academic posture and he doubles down. But he pivots the argument. He says, okay, fine, maybe she isn't clinically insane, but she is ethically and morally corrupt.
Nerve.
He actually demands joint custody, but he attaches a horrifying, deeply insulting addendum. He demands that for the first 2 full years of Bodhi's life, all visitation between Margo and her own child must be supervised.
Supervised. As if she is a violent criminal.
It makes my blood boil.
As if she poses an active physical threat to the child she literally birthed and has been keeping alive single-handedly. We need to pause and rip into the psychology of Mark's hypocrisy here.
Please do, because it is staggering.
Let's look at the facts of his life. This man is a college English professor. He was in position of institutional power.
Yes.
He used that power to sleep with Margo, who was his student. He did this while he was fully married to another woman with a whole other established family.
A whole wife at home.
He detonated his own marriage, his career reputation, and his entire life because he couldn't control his own impulses. Yet he is sitting in a sterile mediation room wearing a cashmere sweater vest, claiming the moral high ground.
The luxury delusion is sickening.
It is the defining trait of the academic upper middle class. He has the absolute luxury of believing his sins are just complex human mistakes that can be unpacked in a sweeping memoir.
Right, he gets to be complicated.
Exactly. But Margo's survival tactics, her turning to OnlyFans to literally buy diapers and pay rent because he abandoned her. To Mark, that isn't a complex circumstance. That is a fundamental moral failing.
He actually uses the word. He looks across the table and says he refuses to let his son be raised by a pervert.
And that word, that was the exact moment.
That was the moment something inside me completely snapped. And it snapped in Margo, too. Because, babes, when Margo launched herself across that heavy oak mediation table to get her hands on him,
oh, she flipped.
I felt that in the deepest recesses of my soul. I profoundly, viscerally related to her emotional break. I will defend her rage until my dying breath.
She went full feral?
She is a mother pushed to the absolute psychological edge. She's been humiliated, stripped of her dignity, investigated by CPS, terrified she will lose her baby, working herself to the bone to provide.
And he's just sitting there.
This man who hasn't paid a single dime of child support, who hasn't woken up at 3 a.m. to soothe the fever, has the nerve to sit there, completely rested, and called her a pervert. I would have lunged, too.
I know you would have.
I would have grabbed him by the sweater vest and flipped the entire table.
Okay. Take a breath, take a sip of the lychee. Because as your analytical counterpart, I have to step in here.
I'm taking a sip. But I'm still mad.
When I watched that scene, while part of me was cheering for the sheer cinematic catharsis of it, the logical part of my brain was dryly analyzing the fallout.
The legal fall.
I was thinking, well, from a legal strategy perspective, this is a catastrophic disaster. The entire point of mediation is to prove you provide a stable, calm environment for a child.
You're not wrong.
You do not physically attack the opposing party in front of court-appointed mediator. It is literally the worst thing you could possibly do.
But it felt so good.
As a connoisseur of reality TV and deep character drama, I admit it was phenomenal television. It was the pure-eyed taking over. But let me push back on you because I want your honest take on this.
Okay, lay it on me.
At what point does matching someone's toxic energy cross the line from justified rage to just actively ruining your own life?
Oh, wow. That is such a brilliant, difficult question. Because you're right, Mark was laying a trap.
He absolutely was.
He wanted a reaction.
Oh.
He was methodically poking the bear where he knew it hurt the most, specifically to make her look unstable, for the record.
So she just handed him the ammunition.
She did. By lunging across the table, she handed him exactly the evidence he wanted. But honestly, sometimes matching that toxic energy isn't a conscious choice.
It's just a reflex.
It is a primal, biological survival reflex. When you are cornered, your body bypasses the logical brain. You can only absorb so much psychological abuse before your physical form just takes over to neutralize the threat.
True.
So yes, from a lawyer's perspective, It was a mess. It slammed the door on mediation and guaranteed they were going to a full, brutal trial.
Exactly. She took the bait, and it propelled them straight into the courtroom circus. But before we get to the gavel and the judge, we have to talk about the apology tour segment of this episode.
Oh, the emotional damage in this section.
The sheer volume of emotional damage inflicted in these pretrial scenes is staggering. We need to start with Cheyenne and Elizabeth.
Oh my God. Michelle Pfeiffer is delivering a masterclass.
A literal Emmy-worthy performance.
Cheyenne is trying so desperately to be a good mother right now. Lace sits Cheyenne down and explains the grim reality breaking the jaw of Mark's mother, Elizabeth, looks terrible for the custody case.
Yeah, judges don't usually love that.
The judge is going to look at Margot's support system and see a violent grandmother. So Cheyenne is ordered to go apologize to Elizabeth.
We have to set the visual for the babes. Cheyenne goes to meet Elizabeth at this country club patio, and Elizabeth's jaw is literally, deservedly, wired shut.
It is hilariously grim.
She sounds like she's trying to speak through a trumpet. It is so darkly funny. But Cheyenne sits down, swallows a mountain of pride, and delivers a shockingly genuine apology.
She really does.
She admits her emotions got the best of her, she crossed a line, and she is sorry for the physical harm. It's a huge moment of maturity for a character who usually solves problems with chaos.
Growth. We love to see it.
And Elizabeth. Babes, let's talk about how Elizabeth accepts this apology. Because she delivers the most backhanded, elegantly evil country club insult I have ever witnessed on screen.
I was absolutely appalled. My jaw dropped.
What does she say?
Elizabeth manages to hiss through her wired teeth that she is so deeply disappointed in Mark's career. She says he's just an English teacher and isn't winning Pulitzers or changing the world.
Setting up the insult perfectly.
And then she slowly looks Cheyenne up and down and says, "So I can only imagine how disappointed you must be in Margo."
Just brutal.
I was out of my seat. I was literally screaming at the screen. I wanted Cheyenne to pick up the iced tea pitcher and break her jaw a second time.
Make it symmetrical.
Exactly. Break the other side. It was such a concentrated dose of venom.
And it is so fascinating because Elizabeth represents the worst kind of villain. She isn't throwing punches. She masks her cruelty in polite, disappointed, high society tones.
It is class warfare disguised as empathy.
She managed to viciously insult Mark, Cheyenne, and Margo all in one single quiet breath. She is essentially saying, my son is a failure, but your daughter is trash, so we aren't the same.
And the hardest part of that entire scene, Cheyenne just has to sit there and eat it.
She just absorbs it.
She has to swallow that burning insult because she knows if she retaliates, if she throws the iced tea, she jeopardizes her daughter's custody case.
It was such a profoundly powerful moment of growth.
It really was. For the first time in her life, Cheyenne prioritized her daughter's future over her own immediate ego. She took the hit for Margo.
It broke my heart, but it made me respect her so much. But speaking of breaking hearts, we have to pivot to the other apology on the tour.
Oh no, I'm not ready.
We need to break down Jinx going over to Susie's apartment. Jinx, played by the endlessly brilliant Nick Offerman, goes to Margo's apartment because he needs to apologize for his devastating drug relapse.
So heavy.
And Margo isn't there, but Susie is. Susie is alone, babysitting Bodhi. And Babe Susie is fully, completely dressed as a character from the video game Baldur's Gate 3.
The cosplay.
She is sitting on the couch, watching a baby, dressed in full Shadowheart cosplay.
The visual composition of that scene is the exact weird, deeply quirky brilliance that makes this show a masterpiece.
You have Nick Offerman delivering this soul-crushing, gravelly apology about the demons of addiction, and he's pouring his heart out to a young woman wearing prosthetic elf ears and intricately crafted fantasy armor.
And it works perfectly. Jinx admits he failed Margo, but more importantly, he looks at Susie and tells her that he failed her.
That was the part that got me.
I was fully crying. I had tears in my lychee margarita. He recognizes the specific gravity of his actions.
Because he knows Susie looked up to him.
Exactly. He knows they were building this beautiful, bizarre, pure friendship revolving around their shared love of professional wrestling and fantasy games.
He became a safe paternal figure for her.
And then he completely shattered that safety by relapsing in the home. Nick Offerman's acting in that moment was so raw and stripped of any ego.
Because the devastating reality of addiction trauma is that the blast radius is so wide.
It doesn't just hurt the immediate family. It destroys the chosen family. It hurts the friends who believed in you, the people who felt safe with you.
And Susie's reaction. Babe, Susie's reaction is everything we were just talking about regarding adulthood and boundaries.
I was praising Susie to the high heavens. I wanted to give her a standing ovation in my living room.
Susie is arguably the only person in this entire cast of chaotic characters who possesses actual, functioning, healthy boundaries.
The only one.
She doesn't scream at him, she doesn't throw things, she just looks at him in her elf ears and acknowledges her love for him. She says, "You are one of my favorite people."
She accepts the apology.
But then she enforces the consequence with absolute clarity. She tells him, "You scared me, and you have to leave."
It was so heavy. You scared me.
It is the healthiest, most heartbreaking interaction of the entire season. Like, you cannot be in this apartment right now. You cannot be near Bodhi.
She loves him, but her need for a safe environment supersedes his need for immediate forgiveness.
To see that level of emotional maturity wrapped up in a Shadowheart cosplay is brilliant writing.
It was incredible. And the emotional stakes were set so incredibly high right there, leading us directly into the climax. The trial.
We are finally in the courtroom.
And babes, we need to introduce you to the absolute breakout star of the finale, Judge Spence.
Played by Paul McCrane, who is a television legend. He brings this frantic, chaotic, eccentric energy to the bench that I absolutely live for.
He is unhinged in the best way.
He is like the ultimate reality TV host Andy Cohen on 10 Cups of Coffee, trapped in a judge's robe. From the literal second he enters the courtroom, he refuses to sit down.
He paces the room like a caged tiger.
He gets right up into everyone's personal space and he just starts roasting them. It is immediately clear that he has read every single page of the sprawling case file, and he has less than zero patience for the legal pageantry.
He immediately zeroes in on Mark.
My favorite part.
He walks right up to Mark's table, leans in, and says, "Point blank, you impregnated a child." And Mark, in his infinite delusion, tries to stutter out a defense.
He tries to say he paid a heavy price because his wife left him.
And the judge just deadpans. Whose fault is that? He literally tells Mark, on the record, this case has a stink, and the waft starts with you.
Incredible dialogue.
I was cheering. I was clapping my hands. Finally, someone in a position of authority saying it directly to Mark's face.
The judge roasted the entire room indiscriminately. It was beautiful. He walks over and asks Jinx if he wants to shake hands, knowing full well Jinx is the one who broke Mark's hand.
So shady.
He looks Cheyenne dead in the eye and asks if she just naturally likes to punch people in the mouth, and Cheyenne points directly at Elizabeth across the aisle and drops the iconic line, "Only her."
Iconic. Put it on a t-shirt.
And then, the pièce de résistance, the judge asks Elizabeth if she actually used the terms snatty and ratty to describe Margo to CPS.
And Elizabeth just goes dead, mortified, silent.
The judge is methodically cutting through all the sterile legal jargon and forcing them to confront the actual messy, undeniable truth of who they are as people.
It was thrilling.
Yeah.
But then the courtroom circus reaches a fever pitch. It reaches its absolute peak with what I'm calling the ultimate Bodhi test.
The baby test.
The judge, in a move that is probably highly illegal but fantastic for television, orders Susie to bring baby Bodhi directly into the courtroom.
He announces that he is going to pass the infant around to every single adult in the room to physically test how the baby reacts to his supposed village.
It is the most unorthodox, brilliant, terrifying legal strategy I've ever seen.
You cannot cross-examine a baby, but a baby's nervous system doesn't lie. It is the ultimate lie detector. So he hands Bodhi to Margo first.
Obviously, the baby is totally calm, nuzzling into his mother.
Then he hands Bodhi over to Jinx. The tension is high because Jinx is a giant gruff man, but Bodhi starts giggling and playing with Jinx's nose.
Totally fine. The village is holding up.
And then the tension in the room spikes to a terrifying level. The judge orders Bodhi to be handed to Cheyenne.
Gaze, you have to remember the context here. Up until this exact moment in the season, Bodhi has screamed bloody murder, inconsolable screaming every single time Cheyenne has ever tried to hold him.
It has been a massive point of insecurity for her.
Everyone in that courtroom freezes. Lace looks terrified. Margo looks terrified. They all know that if Bodhi starts wailing, the judge is going to view Cheyenne as an unfit, chaotic presence.
The whole case could crumble.
But then, Cheyenne remembers. She remembers the specific bouncing technique that Jinx taught her earlier in the season. She squares her shoulders, widens her stance, and starts doing these deep, rhythmic squats, bouncing Bodhi up and down.
The physical comedy of Michelle Pfeiffer doing deep squats in a tailored courtroom blazer is incredible.
It's amazing.
But what is truly fascinating is the science behind it. We talked earlier about nervous system regulation. The baby was crying before because Cheyenne was always anxious and tense when holding him, and the baby felt that erratic energy.
Babies feel everything.
But here, she focuses on the rhythm. She regulates her own breathing to do the squats and the twist.
Bodhi stays completely, beautifully calm. He doesn't make a peep. He just looks at her, totally content, enjoying the ride.
And the look on Cheyenne's face.
Michelle Pfeiffer conveys a lifetime of failure and sudden redemption in a single micro-expression. Her eyes well up. She bursts into these quiet, overwhelming, happy tears.
Because in that specific moment, she finally feels like a real grandmother.
She finally feels a tangible, safe connection to this baby that she couldn't protect her own daughter from having. It was such a massive, earned, emotional payoff for a storyline that had been building since episode 1.
It was a beautiful moment of healing, but the beauty is very short-lived.
Oh, the tears of joy immediately turned into tears of vicious laughter, because next, the judge orders the bailiff to hand Bodhi over to Mark.
And instantly, literally the millisecond the baby touches Mark's sweater vest, Bodhi starts screaming, thrashing, and reaching his little arms desperately back toward Margo. I laughed so hard I had to pause the show.
It was the universe stepping in to humble Mark in real time, because Mark has never held this child.
Never.
He fought for a year over the idea of this child. He treated custody like an academic debate, a trophy to win, to prove he wasn't a deadbeat. But he is a complete biological stranger to Bodhi.
And infants do not care about court petitions. They care about who smells like safety.
Exactly. Mark starts crying too, but it's a pathetic, shocked realization that he's an imposter. The point is definitively made.
Margo's village might be weird, it might be messy, it might involve OnlyFans and professional wrestling, but the village actively loves and soothes Bodhi. Mark is just a guy in a courtroom who doesn't know how to hold a baby.
It was poetry.
Yeah.
Margo looks right at the judge over the screaming baby and just calmly says, "I am his mother."
And that is the undeniable, absolute truth. So the judge returns to the bench and delivers the verdict. Primary undisputed custody goes to Margo.
Thank God.
Mark is granted visitation 2 weekends a month, supervised at first, so that Bodhi can slowly, safely get to know him. Margo wins.
She wins.
But this is where I need to pull you into a debate, because I need to push back on Margo's behavior immediately following the verdict.
Okay, let's hear it.
Outside the courtroom, in the hallway, Margo voluntarily approaches Mark. She looks at him completely sincere and tells him that she genuinely wants him to know his son.
She does.
She says he shouldn't be a stranger, and she wants Bodhi to have a father. I have to ask you, and I need your honest, unvarnished opinion, was Margo being entirely too nice here?
It's a great question.
Did Mark, after spending a year trying to destroy her life, calling her a pervert, and trying to take full custody, actually deserve that level of grace?
Oh, this is the part that genuinely tore me in half. Because listen, on one hand, I am incredibly petty. I hold grudges like they're family heirlooms.
Same.
If I were in her shoes, I would have walked out of those double doors, looked him up and down, laughed right in his face, and told him to lose my number. I would have scorched the earth.
Right.
But on the other hand, Margo is proving definitively that she actually is the better, more stable parent. She is putting Bodhi's long-term psychological needs first.
That's true.
She knows that growing up with a total void where father should be is damaging, even if that father is a cowardly, cheating professor. She is saying, I am not afraid of you anymore.
Yeah.
You can't hurt me, so you can see your kid.
She is securing the bag, protecting her peace, and taking the highest possible road simultaneously. See, I hear that argument. I understand the best interest of the child's psychology, but I will argue loudly that it was a massive flex of maturity that Mark absolutely, fundamentally did not deserve.
No, he earns zero grace.
None. But you are right. It proves the judge's point. Margo is the only true adult in the room. However, we don't have time to dwell on her maturity flex because it is almost instantly overshadowed by the plot twist of the century.
The gag of the season.
Because as Mark is walking away, defeated, he turns back to Margo and Cheyenne and says, by the way, I know I'm an asshole, but I just want you to know I never called CPS on you.
The betrayal.
Yeah.
The absolute stomach-dropping gag. We all assumed Mark called Child Protective Services to bolster his case. If Mark didn't call them, who did?
The camera pans, the silence stretches, and then Kenny.
Kenny?
Sweet, dopey, overly religious, aggressively beiged. Kenny, Cheyenne's new husband, steps forward and confesses. He admits that he made the call to the state.
I am furious.
We need to break down the mechanics of this betrayal because it is insidious. It is so deep, Kenny tries to justify it.
He claims he called CPS purely as a precaution because he was worried about the baby's safety after Jinx overdosed in the apartment.
He spins this narrative that he just wanted Jinx formally removed from the home, and he knew Cheyenne loved Jinx too much to kick him out herself. He tries to frame it as a protective measure.
The betrayal of trust is unforgivable. Cheyenne literally stood at an altar and married this man. And he brought the government, the police, and a terrifying bureaucratic agency into Margo's life behind everyone's back.
He could have caused Margo to lose her child permanently.
Exactly.
And we have to point out the deeply ingrained underlying misogyny and jealousy driving this action, babes, because it wasn't about the baby. It was about Kenny's fragile ego.
Say it.
Kenny couldn't stand the fact that Cheyenne still deeply fundamentally cared for Jinx. He saw them together in that hospital room after the overdose, and he saw the tether between them.
He hated that Jinx still had a hold on his wife's heart.
So what does Kenny do? He weaponizes a powerful government agency against a struggling 20-year-old single mother just to fix his own insecurities about his marriage.
Wow.
He thought he was playing the white knight, swooping in to save the family from the bad addict, but really he was just an insecure, jealous man dropping a nuclear bomb on a house to kill a spider.
That is the perfect analogy.
Oh,
it is so unbelievably toxic. And the shot of Cheyenne's face in the car ride home with Kenny.
Yeah.
The silence in that vehicle was deafening.
You can see the exact moment the illusion breaks.
She realizes she married a man who fundamentally does not understand her trauma or her family's reality. He thought calling the cops would neatly fix things, completely oblivious to the fact that for people in Margo's socioeconomic position, the system does not fix families, it destroys them.
Exactly. It perfectly sets up the inevitable marital collapse for next season. But let's move away from the man dragging her down and talk about Margo's next chapter, because she is ascending.
She is rising.
The episode ends with Margo bringing Cheyenne into her apartment to show her the brand new Hungry Ghost set. Susie, who is apparently a master carpenter, along with being an elf cosplayer, built Margo this incredible, immersive, high-quality sci-fi spaceship set in her living room.
It looks amazing, and the emotional weight of this scene is huge. Margo looks at her mother, stands in her sci-fi set, and completely refuses to be ashamed anymore.
She owns it.
She tells Cheyenne, point blank, that OnlyFans pays for the rent, it pays for the health care, it pays for the child care. And surprisingly, it fulfills her creatively. She proudly announces she is going to do an artful rendering of her tunnel of love, babes.
And Cheyenne accepts it. Because Cheyenne remembers telling a toddler Margo years ago that she should never, ever be ashamed of her body.
Yes. Margo took that core lesson, weaponized it against a world that wanted her to fail, and built an empire out of it.
And we get proof that the empire is rapidly growing. Right at the very end of the episode, Margo is logging on to perform her first show on the new set, and a new fan drops a massive, unprecedented tip into her account.
A user, under the handle JB, tips her $1,350 before she even starts talking.
Babes, $1,300, that is whale money.
Whale money. She is about to be incredibly rich. And let's talk about the Season 2 grapevine, because the Snark Squad needs to know our predictions.
Oh, we have predictions.
We have been scouring the depths of the Reddit threads, reading the tea leaves, and the book readers have been dropping massive hints.
Apparently, in the original novel by Rufy Thorpe, this JB character isn't just a random fan with disposable income. He is a major player.
The rumor is he is supposed to be Margo's new love interest and eventually her legitimate business partner.
Oh, the implications. I am predicting that JB comes in and elevates the Hungry Ghost persona from a scrappy apartment webcam show into a massive, highly lucrative enterprise.
I can see it.
Margo is going to have real structural money in Season 2. But think about the psychological fallout of that. Think about Mark.
Mark is going to lose his actual mind.
How is Mark going to handle being a weekend dad, taking Bodhi to a municipal park, while Margo is suddenly pulling in 6 figures a month, driving a luxury car, and living her absolute best sci-fi fantasy life?
His fragile academic ego is going to completely shatter. He won't be able to handle her success. He's going to spiral so hard.
And what about your prediction for Cheyenne and Kenny?
I predict a swift, merciless divorce. I do not think Cheyenne can stay legally bound to a man who called CPS on her daughter.
No way.
That is the ultimate betrayal of the mother-daughter bond that she and Margo just fought so hard to finally repair. I think Cheyenne packs her bags, leaves Kenny in his beige house, and maybe, just maybe she and Jinx finally strip away the toxic layers and figure out their undeniable connection.
Give me all of that mess. I am so here for the chaos of Season 2. I need them to start filming immediately.
Same.
But babes, as much as we could spiral about JB and Mark's ego all night, we have to transition into our official Snark side segments. Let's dive into segment 1, biggest financial red flag.
Ooh, my favorite.
Because this entire show revolves around money, survival, and financial abuse. And there are some glaring neon red flags waving in this finale.
I am kicking this one off. The absolute worst, most infuriating money-related behavior from the entire episode, hands down, is Mark.
Shocker.
Mark spends the entire season demanding full custody, dragging Margo through endless court-mandated mediations, forcing her to hire a top-tier lawyer, generating thousands in legal fees, and never once, not in a single conversation, bringing up the concept of paying child support.
It is blood-boiling. He wants 100% of the control and the glory of being a father, but absolutely 0% of the financial responsibility that actually keeps a child alive.
Exactly.
In the final ruling, the judge grants him 2 weekends a month, but notice there is absolutely no mention of him cutting a monthly check. He gets to play the fun, leisurely weekend dad, buying booty ice cream, while Margo is literally stripping on the internet at 2 a.m. to buy diapers, pay rent, and keep the lights on.
The ultimate financial red flag is a man who firmly believes his mere presence is a substitute for actual, tangible financial provision.
Preach. Say it louder for the people in the back.
And my runner-up for the biggest financial red flag is absolutely Kenny.
Kenny is a menace.
Kenny weaponized a government agency against Margo. Do you have any idea how exorbitantly expensive it is to fight an active CPS investigation and a hostile custody battle simultaneously?
It's ruinous.
It requires lawyers, evaluations, time off work. He could have cost Margo tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees that she definitively did not have. He risked literally bankrupting his own stepdaughter, pushing her onto the street, just to settle a petty, jealous rivalry with his wife's ex-boyfriend.
Exactly. When you strip it down, the real overarching red flag of the show is anyone, whether it's Mark with his court petitions or Kenny with his anonymous phone calls, actively trying to stop a single mother from securing her bag.
Secure the bag, Margo.
Margo is out here hustling, building physical sets, managing her tiered subscriptions, engaging with her audience, and these men are just throwing incredibly expensive, bureaucratic, legal hurdles in her way because they are profoundly uncomfortable with her autonomy and survival.
Red flags everywhere.
Yeah.
A sea of red flags.
Which brings us flawlessly to segment 2. Would we answer the ex?
Oh, circling back to the intro.
Babes, tying this entire conversation back to our opening spiral about your ex having the absolute nerve to text you for dinner today, let's debate which characters from the Margo universe would absolutely text an ex back and who would leave them on read.
Oh, this is the easiest game we have ever played. Let's start with Cheyenne.
Cheyenne would 100% answer a text from Jinx. In fact, she wouldn't just answer it. She would drop whatever she was doing.
Immediately.
She would leave Kenny sitting at the dinner table mid-sentence to text Jinx back. She is completely chemically addicted to the toxic cycle with that man.
If Jinx texted her right now at 10 p.m. saying, "I miss you," she would be in her car with the engine running before the text even officially delivered.
It's a sickness, truly. A romantic sickness. But what about Mark? How does Mark handle the ex text?
Mark wouldn't just answer the text. Mark is the specific brand of toxic ex who initiates the text. Mark is the possessor of the peace radar we talked about.
Yes.
If he sensed his ex-wife, or Margo, was finally happy, glowing, and moving on with a whale tipper named JB, Mark would absolutely send a 2 a.m., highly intellectualized, just thinking about the trajectory of our past text to completely ruin her peace.
He is the villain of the summer text season.
He absolutely is. He drafts it in the Notes app first.
Oh, he definitely does. And Margo? What does Margo do?
I think early season Margo, like the naive, overwhelmed college student from episode 1, would have answered Mark's texts. She was still looking for his validation, still hoping he would step up and save her.
But finale Margo?
Absolutely not. Finale Margo gets the "Hey Stranger" text, reads it from her lock screen so he doesn't even get the read receipt, swipes left to delete the thread, and walks into her living room to log onto her spaceship set and collect $1,300.
Iconic.
She has entirely outgrown the biological need to respond to toxic men. I love Finale Margo with my entire heart.
She is the blueprint for our 30s. Okay, moving into segment 3, chapter 1 lessons. Let's take the incredible character arcs from this finale and map them onto the chapter 1 adulthood lessons we discussed while we were mixing our drinks earlier.
I'll jump in with my lesson first. Peace is more valuable than attention.
Margo is the living, breathing embodiment of this lesson in the finale.
Throughout the season, she was so worried about what everyone thought, the university, Mark, the internet, her mother. But by the end, she stops trying to fight the court of public opinion.
She learns to completely block out the haters, block out Mark's hypocritical moral grandstanding, and just focus entirely on her art, her income, and her baby.
She realizes she doesn't need the attention of society's approval anymore. She just fiercely protects the peace of providing for Bodhi on her own terms.
Yes, that is exactly it. And the lesson I brought up earlier was confidence takes time.
We saw that executed so beautifully with Cheyenne. Cheyenne has been vibrating with insecurity about her role as a grandmother all season.
She felt like an imposter, an outsider, because Bodhi always cried when she held him. She thought she was fundamentally broken.
But in that courtroom, when she finally held him, utilized the bouncing technique, and he stayed calm. You could literally see her roots take hold.
She found her footing. She found her confidence. It took time. It took humbling herself to learn from Jinx. But she finally stepped into her matriarchal role with absolute grace.
It's beautiful. And sadly, my other lesson, not every friendship survives adulthood. This connects directly and painfully to the heartbreaking reality of Susie and Jinx.
Susie worshipped Jinx. They had a beautiful, pure bond.
But the hardest part of growing up is realizing that you cannot save people who are actively, aggressively destroying themselves. At a certain point, empathy becomes enabling, and you have to protect your own peace and physical safety.
Susie having to look at Jinx, tell him she loves him, but then physically distance herself from him to keep herself and Margo's home safe. That is the hardest, truest, most brutal adulthood lesson there is.
It breaks your heart into pieces, but it is necessary survival. You have to secure your own oxygen mask first.
All right, babes, we have arrived at our final segment. Segment 4, Luxury Delusion Rankings. We need to rank the characters based on who is living totally beyond their means, whether that is financially or emotionally, versus who is secretly, quietly thriving.
Coming in hot at the absolute top delusion tier, undeniably, are Elizabeth and Mark.
They are living in the penthouse suite of the Delusion Hotel. They genuinely, down to their bones, believe they are morally superior, high-class citizens while actively moving through the world acting like absolute monsters.
Elizabeth actually thinks she can viciously insult a woman's daughter while simultaneously accepting an apology from her.
Mark genuinely thinks he can demand full, supervised custody of a child he emotionally and financially abandoned while lecturing a single mother on ethics.
They are completely, totally emotionally bankrupt, but they were walking around acting like they own the moral bank.
Yeah.
They were the dictionary definition of luxury delusion.
And right below them, occupying the mid-delusion pier, is Kenny. Kenny is deeply delusional enough to think that calling a terrifying, family-separating government agency on a struggling young mother makes him the righteous savior of the family unit.
He genuinely thinks he is the protector, completely and totally blind to the fact that his actions make him the villain of his own marriage.
He is emotionally living way beyond his means because he assumes he has the moral authority to control Cheyenne's complex family dynamics.
Spot on. And finally, the highest honor, the secretly thriving tier, and that crown goes directly to our queen, Margo.
Think about it. Everyone in that courtroom, from the eccentric judge to her own high-priced lawyers, looks at her and sees a mess.
They see a tragic, struggling, exhausted single mother who has to do taboo sex work just to scrape by. But what is the actual reality?
The reality is she just won full, undisputed primary custody of her son, neutralizing her abuser. She just built an awesome, highly creative sci-fi set in her apartment, proving her dedication to her craft.
And she just effortlessly bagged a $1,350 tip from a mysterious whale before even starting her shift.
Margo is about to be rich, babes.
Yeah.
She's secretly thriving while everyone else in her orbit is busy spiraling.
She really, truly is. She is the ultimate winner of the finale, and I am so aggressively here to watch her thrive, count her money, and ruin Mark's life in Season 2.
But Snark Squad, as much as it pains me, that brings us to the end of our incredibly long, lychee, margarita-fueled spiral for tonight.
We genuinely cannot thank you enough for hanging out at the table, drinking with us, and screaming at the television with us week after week.
We truly love you, babes. You are the best internet family we could ask for. But before we let you go off into your weekend, we need you to hit the comments immediately. We have very specific questions, and we need your unfiltered hot takes.
First of all, we need you to confirm the science on our theory. Do exes always return in the summer? Is the summer text a universal biological experience, or are we just cursed?
We desperately need the data. Second, What is your absolute favorite cocktail to make lately? Are you accidentally becoming professional mixologists in your kitchen like us? Drop the recipes, tell us what to shake up next week.
Third, I want you to get deep with us. What is the biggest, hardest lesson you have learned from your chapter 1 of life? Make us cry in the comments, babes. We want to read your reflections.
And finally, the most important, pressing question of the entire night. If you were in the hot seat today, would you have answered that dinner text from the ex? Be brutally honest.
Do not lie to us in the comments. We will know. We can sense it. Remind yourself to like, comment, and subscribe because your support literally keeps the lychee margaritas flowing and the snark alive on this channel.
And remember, babes, the next time you are minding your own business and you get a random, audacious text from a ghost of your past trying to disrupt your hard-earned peace, just visualize Mark holding baby Bodhi and crying in that courtroom. Let them scream. Keep your peace.
Stay messy, stay evolving, and we will see you on the snark side.